Prepare to dive headfirst into the world of business, wearing nothing but ambition and a keyboard. Oh, wait, that's us. Welcome to FounderQuest. Does this keyboard make my butt look big?
So Josh, did you buy a Vision Pro?
I did not. I'm still not sure if it was the right call or not, because I was listening to the latest episode of Dithering with Ben and John Gruber, and John was talking about how like the first half of the episode was like it's not quite there for productivity. I was like, phew, I dodged a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
But the second half of the episode, he just spent raving about the entertainment experience. He said he has a 77-inch TV in his living room, and the Vision Pro makes it feel like a like a 13-inch box from the 90s after watching a movie or a game in the Vision Pro. So I don't know. I'm feeling a little FOMO now.
Yeah, same. I was thinking that I didn't, when I first saw, I think it was like early, I can't remember exactly when I read this, but I was like, when I realized that it couldn't do multiple Mac window space, that you only had your desktop in the space, then I was like, I'm not so interested. Because what I really want is to really bring the different windows in different spots. But then I was thinking about it some more after listening to that podcast episode you just talked about, and looking at Marquez Brownlee's review, which was fantastic on YouTube. After watching those and listening to that, I thought, that actually would be fine, because I would, if I had my Mac desktop as a window, then I would also have Slack over on the side and whatever other like Vision OS apps in the different places. And then the Mac window that I would have would probably just be my editor, and that would be fine.
Yeah.
Like I could have Safari.
Yeah, because it makes like the Mac just becomes like another window in
Yeah.
the Vision Pro
Yeah.
OS. Is that how it works? Okay.
Yeah. So I sold myself on it before I had pretty much decided I didn't want it. So yeah, I kind of flip-flopped there, but I haven't purchased one yet.
Well, we have our next quarterly conclave strategy session coming up, and normally we meet up in person, but this would be a great time to try the remote in-person, the conference board meeting of the future.
Right. Exactly. With those personas.
Yeah. Do they have a vault environment?
I guess we could justify this as a business expense, right? If we buy them for meetings.
I'm sure we could. Yeah.
Now, on the meetings though, one thing that I really liked about Marquez's video was he showed having the FaceTime with the persona with multiple people. And as he would turn to one person or turn to the other person, they could tell that he was looking at them. And then the other person who he was not looking at could tell he was looking away. And I thought that was super cool, because on Zoom, when you have multiple people, they don't really know what you're looking at because it's all in one spot. So I thought that is
much more
compelling
impersonal.
thing. Yeah. Of course, everyone has to have a Vision Pro, but
That's the thing. Yeah. It's got, I've heard it's a very different experience if one person has it and the other person doesn't.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It probably doesn't fit within our current plans for making money. So maybe it'll be like the reward for achieving our goal of 100 customers spending $100
by
March 31st,
like
just to reiterate.
That's a definite carrot we can use to motivate ourselves.
Yeah. Or who knows? Maybe we'll just treat ourselves. We can still do that, right?
So if we get our goal, then we can buy Vision Pros. If we don't meet our goal, then I guess we can just go get ice cream.
I like ice cream.
Yeah, I like ice cream too.
It's win-win.
On that note, I had a little bit of news yesterday. Had an inquiry from someone about Insights. That's a customer that got access to Insights a month or two ago. I can't remember how long now. And I haven't heard from them since they first got access. And so they just dropped in my inbox yesterday, and they're all like, hey, can you take a look at these things? And found 4 things that we could address. And then the 5th item in their email was, and what's the pricing on this? I was like, yes, I just love it when people ask for the pricing.
It's nice they're expecting that.
Yeah.
They don't just think they're going to get it for free forever.
Well, and that they're interested enough that they're signaling that they're willing to pay. That's huge. And we all know that willingness to pay is not necessarily the same as actually paying, because those people, those are sometimes different. But when it's an existing customer and you're got this new thing and I think that's a good sign anyway.
You're totally right. Yeah. The other thing that tells me is that they know something about the pricing for these things potentially. And I think that sounds like they are aware of maybe like competitor pricing. Maybe they're using a competitor and this is compelling enough to switch, which is, I think that's at the point when I would be like, okay, let's see how much this is actually going to cost, like in comparison to what I'm currently using. So that's very positive.
Yeah. So this is encouraging me to go and talk to more customers and do some of that sales outreach that we talked about before that can help us get
Yeah.
to our goal.
Yeah, that's great. Let's do it.
But you had some big news in the past few days too,
Well, this week it was I think it was Monday, right?
So-
It was
or Sunday night.
like,
Or Monday night? I can't remember what night.
Yeah, it was Sunday night, but our project Exceptional Creatures, which you can go look at exceptionalcreatures.com. It's like a little bit like a Pokédex of Ruby exceptions. So it's like we have little creatures, like character designs for specific Ruby exceptions in the Ruby Standard Library. And we've illustrated them, and we've done fun technical content based around this like world of whimsical creatures. And this was a project of mine from, I don't know, gosh, was it like I want to say like 2018 or 2019?
I looked it up.
or
It's 7 years old.
was it before? Wow.
Yeah.
So it's been around a while now. I guess we've been around a while now. We did it, and it's been sitting there, but it showed up on the front page of Hacker News on Sunday night and had a resurgence of interest. And since then, it's been getting a lot of attention on social media, and we just found out it was top of Ruby Weekly, the newsletter by Cooper Press that's very popular this week. So that was a really nice way to start the week.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Like some random person found it and posted Hacker News, and people loved it. And yeah, I had a friend like text me on Sunday night, like, "Hey, you're number 1 on Hacker News." Like, oh, that's weird.
It was some random person named Ben. I don't know. You said it wasn't a sock puppet, but I'm not convinced.
It was not me.
But in any case, thank you, Ben.
Thanks,
if you're
Ben.
out there, if you're listening or not, thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that made our week. And it makes me wonder, like, what's next for Exceptional Creatures? It's been something that, like, I always think about when I'm like, that would be a really cool project to keep going. But, of course, juggling everything that we do. But it's making me think there's probably still some potential there to keep working on it.
You triggered a thought. I just had this idea. What if we take the Exceptional Creatures? I think we have like 12 or 16 of them, whatever it is. We take them and we make a little booklet. We get it printed up.
Yeah.
And we actually hand it out at conferences.
My dream has been to make a book out of Exceptional Creatures, but I think every time I think about it, it's been like I have this grand vision of what it could be. And then, but the easy thing to do would be to take what we have and put it into a book and do like a quick kind of conference swag book. But what I'm envisioning is like a Kickstarter for like a bespoke, like hand illustrated like story about Ruby creatures for kids that would like introduce them to the wonderful world of programming.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
I just think that would be awesome. I would love to do that. And of course, now like Exceptional Creatures was before the like sea change of generative AI. And like when ChatGPT and Midjourney and everything started to blow up, I actually like played with the concept of generating like creatures, because ChatGPT can generate character sheets, for example, if you like give it some inspiration, and then you can go and generate like creatures based on those character sheets with whatever Midjourney or ChatGPT now. But I don't think I'd go that direction. I think I'd double down on the hand drawn or hand like illustrated, have an artist. Like my wife did the creatures. We've talked about maybe like giving them a refresh or doing some more. But I just think it would be really cool to have like just have an artist continue to do these and not go down the AI route, just because like it's so much better. Like it was fun to generate the things, and it's very fast, and you get kind of like you know it's like pretty good, like quote in quotation marks, but it just doesn't compare to like actually putting in the work and like doing it yourself.
Yeah, no school like the old school.
So I think we will continue to work with artists at Honeybadger.
Oh, yeah. We are definitely a handcrafted artisanal shop at Honeybadger.
That's right.
It's our Pacific Northwest roots, right?
Plus, yeah, I don't know. My wife would probably leave me if I replaced her with an AI bot.
I think that's fair. Reason for divorce, AI.
I'm sure it won't be I'm sure it's not the first one.
Right.
It seems like they're taking it pretty seriously down there in Silicon Valley.
The age in which we live.
Yeah.
Since we're recording later this week than we usually record, we have actually, I think, a bumper crop of news. So also this week, I sat and chatted with a podcast, the Rubber Duck Dev podcast. That was a fun chat. We talked about ops for developers. I've been thinking a lot lately about our mission in life for Honeybadger is to help developers have a better day, right? To manage, see what their application is doing in production, and to help their customers have a good experience by knowing if errors are being thrown or whatever. And I've just been thinking a lot about how we get to help developers level up and not just, write the code and throw it over the wall, but actually run the code and know what's going on and making sure it's a good experience. And so I think part of that is the ops scene, DevOps in particular, like a developer doing ops is how I think about DevOps. I know there's a variety of definitions out there for DevOps, but
Yeah.
so we talked about that on the podcast. And one of the things as I was getting ready for that podcast, I was thinking about DHH has been saying like Rails is a single developer framework. And so the thought that I had was, okay, that's cool. Like you can build a great app as a single developer, but you also should be able to run the app as a single developer, right? And for a lot of developers, it's just, okay, push it to Heroku and I'm done. But when you might outgrow Heroku. And so at that point, you need to know, like, how do I get this thing onto a server? How do I get it out to the world? And, Kamal is really helpful for that and making it easy to, push your Docker container out there. And Rails 7.1 has some great improvements for Docker there. So I just think like in general, as a species, as developers, as we get better at running our apps, then, we'll be happier, right? We can be more self-sufficient like the framework of one promises.
Yeah. It seems like Docker is really kind of having its moment in like on the smaller end of the development spectrum. Like in our world, a lot of developers like the whatever single developer apps or the small apps would have just pushed it to Heroku. But it seems like people are maybe moving more back towards the idea of running it on your own hardware or whatever. And of course, I'm sure DHH, he's been kind of evangelizing that approach ever since they've did that with Basecamp and Hey. And everything. So yeah, it's interesting to see that people moving away from the like platform as a service to like running your own like open source infrastructure, even when you're small. I think that's the key. And even for DevOps, you make a good point. Like DevOps, it's a thing for big companies. Like that's where the revolution was, like in the large organizations that were stuck in the IT age of having IT departments and having this wall of separation between IT and dev. But like our goal has always been to like take that and take some of the like good ideas from that world and bring it to the smaller teams to make them even more efficient and responsive. So I think like for us, it makes sense to think of devs doing ops because we're like heavily focused on the dev side of things. And we're also focused on the smaller end of the team. So most of the teams that we're working with are not like the kind of large companies that have like multiple ops teams that are separate from the devs that have to work together with them. Usually people are kind of juggling both roles in the same seat or in a very small team.
Yeah. And, with the tech layoffs that we've had in the past year, we're going to keep seeing, I think, doing more with less. And that means the individuals in that seat doing more things, right? Managing more tasks and taking more responsibilities. So yeah, I think we'll see more of that trend in the future.
That could be a marketing opportunity for us because that's been our marketing language for a while now. I'll have to go check out that episode of the Rubber Duck Developer podcast. I was going to ask, what is it like podcasting with a rubber duck? Because normally like you have a host that interacts with you, but it's got to be weird. Just I assume it's just you show up and talk, right?
That would be kind of fun, actually.
I think it would be like a little rough to do that to your guests, but I could see if you were a single dev and that was your format where it's like, a format where you're just monologuing anyway, make it the Rubber Duck podcast and have a quote unquote co-host, but the co-host is just like a rubber duck with a camera.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I've been interested in the idea of a monologuing podcast recently. I don't know if that would be something that could be long-term listenable, because I think the conversation between people is really where I think the dynamic is great. So I just don't know if that'd actually be good or not, but I just think it's an interesting idea of, well, I'm just going to chat at you for a while about things that I think are interesting,
It can be good. You know who has an awesome like single person monologue, like daily podcast is Lex Friedman. And this isn't the big Lex Friedman. This is Lex Friedman who I think he worked with Podcasting Midroll. We worked with him back in the day. But he has this podcast called, I think it's called Your Daily Lex. And he's like a total character. Like he records music with his kid and does like publishes albums on Spotify and stuff and has his own jingles and things. And he's like really good at recording because he's from the podcasting industry. So he's got this really short, like usually 5 or 10 minute podcast that is just like him, like just monologuing about some story from his life recently, or like just kind of here's a thought for you to think about. But he's just he has a really good like broadcaster presence and it's fun. So I know the format can definitely work.
I'll check it out. Obviously, I'm not a podcast aficionado.
I probably listen to too many podcasts.
When we're not listening to podcasts and not being number one in Hacker News for our awesomeness, we're also shipping stuff. And you shipped some pretty cool stuff this week.
Well, you shipped some pretty cool stuff this week too, and
Hey, we
you
both shipped some
shipped
pretty
it
cool stuff this
first.
week.
You beat me this week, so I guess we'll talk about your thing first. But you shipped our new search backend, right?
Yeah. So we talked I think, a couple times now about replacing our Elasticsearch cluster with Clickhouse for doing our search. And got that deployed. I think maybe you didn't realize we were racing, but we were racing. And yesterday when I got my merge in first and I celebrated in Slack, and I appreciate your congratulations. But
I mean, I have kind of learned in the past never to agree to a race with Ben Curtis on a Git branch.
So it was a lot of work. It was more than I was expecting, of course, as per usual. But it was a lot of fun. I got to play with Clickhouse and find some of the sharp edges there. And that was cool. One of the main goals was to not have any visible change to the customer. So our search syntax didn't change. None of the interactions changed. It all is, completely invisible. And so I wrote this kind of abstraction inside of our code that separates the query language from the backend, and then inserted Clickhouse there with a feature flag. So right now it's deployed only for a few customers. I just want to test it out and make sure that it works. And I don't want any surprises. If people are searching for things and they had something match yesterday, I don't want them to not match today, right? So I was actually sitting down last night looking at our search documentation, and our search documentation is pretty lengthy, actually. And I'm like, you know what? I think this is because search is pretty important in our application, right? It's a big deal to have search work well. And that's something that I think for a long time we sold as a selling point versus some of our competitors, that our search is freaking awesome, right? So
It still is.
It still is. It is freaking awesome. And I didn't want to break that in any way. So yeah, it's there. It's deployed. I'm so relieved. That was a lot of work, and I'm glad to have that branch, not a branch anymore.
So you're saying our search is it's not only freaking awesome, but it's now way faster, or soon to be way faster. Because it wasn't there a big performance boost from Clickhouse over Elasticsearch? Is that what we're thinking?
I was seeing literally 10x improvement in search results. Yeah. Instead of something taking 1.2 seconds, it's taking 120 milliseconds.
It sounds like the best of both worlds then. Right?
Yeah.
Awesome search and fast search.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I reviewed that PR, and it did look like a massive amount of work, especially working with a new database system and everything. And I'm sure working out how to translate the nuances of Elasticsearch to make it work the same way in Clickhouse was no small feat. So nice work there. I will say that best practice we used for using small objects and factoring some of the backend, how we construct our search queries and things, must have come in handy. Because you could just adapt, you have a Elasticsearch version of an object and you can create a Clickhouse version of that object, and it plugs right into the system, kind of speaking of ducks, like a duck type, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And shout out to the Clickhouse Active Record gem for making it easy to talk to Clickhouse with, sugary sweet syntax of Active Record. That was pretty handy.
That was the other thing that was really cool. I guess this is getting fairly technical, but for the Rails people, because our Elasticsearch stuff has always been a little bit mystifying to me, just because it's it doesn't follow the Rails standards, and we're kind of just constructing query strings on the fly. So having actually being able to plug the Clickhouse into the application just like another database, because you can have multiple Active Record databases in Rails, it just makes the whole thing much more approachable to me, because it's just another database you're querying almost, even though it's more of a search index than a database, but same idea. So yeah, I'm really excited about that change, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely nicer to be able to work with SQL syntax than it is working with the random JSON payloads that Elasticsearch likes.
Yeah, I think it was the payloads that, didn't feel like real querying.
Yeah, I could never remember the structure of stuff. And every time I would have to go back and how do I do this thing in Elasticsearch? I just have to go look it up. And recently, now that OpenAI is around, now I can ask ChatGPT. And that's so much better because it can just tell me, boom, there it is. I guess it came on a little late considering we're moving away from Elasticsearch, but highly recommend it for creating Elasticsearch queries.
Yeah, I'm sure it can help with Clickhouse queries too.
Yeah, probably.
Or at least it will.
But cool. My stuff is all invisible. Your stuff is all very visible.
Yeah, last episode we talked about launching the UI behind a feature flag and sent out an email to our customers. we got a lot of good feedback, and we spent the last week working through that feedback, fixing bugs, making improvements. We actually made some significant changes to the UI based on that feedback, and it made everything kind of just click into place a little bit better, I think. So
Yeah, totally.
just made the whole thing better overall. And the best part is that feedback actually came from real users who are familiar with our app and have been using it for a long time. So it's valuable to sit down with someone in front of a screen and have them like look through the app and give you feedback. But when it's an actual user that is familiar, that's a user of it for real, it's just all the better. So that, I think that worked really well, and I'm really happy with the result. And so, yeah, we got through all that, and we didn't ship it Tuesday. We were shooting for Tuesday, which was earlier this week. It's Thursday now, but we got to it Wednesday. So we were one day late. So I think that's pretty good, especially for us.
Yeah, definitely. For a company
Yeah.
that's not big on deadlines, yeah, only missing it by a day was pretty good.
Yeah, go us. This is anyway, one of the things that we added, this didn't come, I think this came from, well, I think we all kind of had some ideas around this separately, and then like we realized it, we should totally do that. But so basically we added a random quote generator to the app to basically just like spit out some fun developer-y quotes that we like, basically our favorites. And we put it in our like navigation, like sidebar, that like it's not visible all the time, but when you go to like navigate to like a top level page, you open it. So we kind of had this extra space, and I was like, what should I do with this space? Like other companies will put a copyright or something boring. So we were like, why don't we just have a little fun and introduce some more whimsy into your otherwise scary experience of dealing with errors and outages and whatever else you're coming to Honeybadger for. So I think that's my favorite change that we made. Is we've got some quotes from Matt's, we've got some quotes from Sandy Metz, we've got some of our favorite movie quotes and TV quotes, we've got some Office, Bears Beats Battlestar Galactica, and Hack the Planet. Yeah, it's pretty fun. If you are a Honeybadger user, you should definitely just refresh it a bunch of times and see what pops up.
Yeah, that was totally fun feature. I'm glad you tossed that in there at the very end. I guess that was probably my number one feature, but my number two, I think, of the change was changing the top color. Yeah, and you reminded me
Oh,
of that.
yeah.
You reminded me of that just now when you said, sometimes it's scary working on Honeybadger, because somebody wrote in and said, "Oh, I like the new header color because it's not as scary." And I'm like, "Yep, I feel
Yeah.
the same way."
We had this like our brash orange, Honeybadger orange color is the top nav bar in the past, and now we have a soft like light color. And yeah, you're right. It totally just changed the vibe of being in the app, and it really like some of the other changes we made like really simplified the environment even more while introducing new things. Like we have global views of more things now, across projects, and it gives us like there's a lot more room to put things now as we're like introducing insights and some, we have ideas for where we want to take the app, and this is kind of like the foundation for that. So I think we did a good job of keeping that simplicity that we're going for while giving ourselves more space to make it more complicated. It's always a balancing act.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when I have to go, because we have like our on-prem separate Honeybadger instance that we use for monitoring Honeybadger, because you don't want to monitor your service with your service. And we haven't deployed the new UI update there yet. And every time I go back there, I'm like, what is this like ancient, archaic app from 10 years ago? So it's really, it's really hard to go back once you get into the new look.
My number 3 favorite new change is the overview of the at a glance of being able to see which sites and check-ins are failing when you look at the projects list. That's, to me, it's huge. Like, not, before you could just see what the status of your errors were, and now you can see the status of all the things we monitor. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love some of those like small, like just quality of life improvements you made across the whole app. And I think we have even more things we can do there. And I think the main thing is just I love that we're thinking about this and just doing the work. So sometimes it's good to work on the product and not just do marketing. I know that I've had that thought a little bit, just because you hear that advice from a lot of people like, oh, don't work on product. You don't need to work on product. You just need to do marketing, because it's true. Like a lot of people, especially like developers who are doing the developer founder thing, their first instinct is not to do marketing. And so they don't do any marketing. But like, I think in the past, we took that to heart and really like we did a lot of marketing and we do a lot of marketing, but there's a balance. You still should work on your product.
Yeah.
If there's anyone listening that that feels bad about shipping features, like still ship your features.
And to add one thing there, I think, and work on your product in visible ways. I think a lot of the work that we do on Honeybadger is not very visible to the customer. Like we do performance improvements, or we do a feature here that only a few people are going to use,
Yeah. Integrations.
Yeah. And I think that having visible updates to your app over time, it just helps people feel like, oh, this is not abandonware. They're still taking
Yeah.
care of it. They're still in there. It's not, you know what I mean?
You get what the wisdom is saying. You don't want to just keep adding things
Right.
and adding things to the app over and over, because then you just end up with an app that is full of random features and things. But if you do it intentionally, something I'm excited about for this year that we've done a little bit as a part of this update, and I want to continue doing, is just redesigning things in the app or rebuilding them, like existing features, like rethink them and make them better, and see if it still makes sense to fit in where they do, or can we like change how it works. It's not necessarily adding a new feature, but like reimagining a feature that gets a lot of use and finding ways that we can either improve it or even just polish it up a little bit. I think that's what I want to spend more time on later this year.
Yeah, it just makes it feel better, and everyone's happy when it's better. Back to the marketing bit, I noticed when you posted, I guess it was to Mastodon, and you poked Matt's. You referenced Matt's because you were showing his quote. I'm like, oh, that's some pretty clever marketing going on there, Josh.
That one, yeah, the one that he retweeted me on Twitter. I don't know if he got. I mentioned him everywhere because I have to post to like whatever. I post to all the different networks now. But yeah, I posted it. One of them was to Twitter. He's a little more active on Twitter, it seems. But yeah, he retweeted us on Twitter, which was really nice of him. Nice. But yeah, one of his quotes popped up, and I took a screenshot and thought that would be a good one to share.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a tiny thing, like just a quote in the app. But the reason that it's my favorite is just because, one, it's so much fun. It inspires joy. It makes people happy. And two, it's good. It's good for us. It's marketing. It's viral marketing, because I'm sure I'm not the last one to screenshot one of the quotes and post it to social media or whatever, or like share it somewhere, even if it's in your company's Slack or whatever. So I think it's another win-win situation that it's just fun. It's good marketing.
And from a product is marketing point of view, that it goes along with our brand, right? We are not just the button down corporate, 777 cockpit kind of application, right? We have a little bit of whimsy. We have a little bit of fun. We have weird colors, Yeah.
You remind me, one of the ideas we've had over the years was to have exceptional creatures in the app somehow. And I think I'm going to do that after this call, or at least I'm going to give myself another note, because I think it doesn't have to be like dramatic, but we could totally, because there's specific Ruby errors on exceptional creatures that have the class names and everything. We could match this up really easily just for the handful of the most popular ones, and just put a little character, a little like link to it that isn't going to get in your way, but does that again. Like just, it's like a fun little thing or Easter egg. I got to do that.
Here's what I'm thinking. All right. So let's say it's a no method error or whatever, one of the popular exceptional creatures, and you're looking at the detail and you see the summary. You imagine the box, right? And on the right-hand side of the box, after, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever, a little delay, it slides out from behind the box and just peeks at you, right? And waves or something. Yeah. And then you can click on it and go over to exceptional creatures.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, we totally have to put it in there.
Yeah. So look for that next week when Josh deploys.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the tension between doing things like that is always, in an app like ours, is just the workflow. Like, you don't want to like interrupt people's workflow with whimsy.
Right.
So there's like a balance of figuring out how to like make it visible and hit people in the right moments, but not when it's going to frustrate them, basically. And but I'm sure we'll figure it out. And there are ways to do it.
Yeah. So one thing I'm excited to work on next, since I'm not cool with the whole CSS bits that make little creatures pop out of windows, what I'm going to work on next is testing Clickhouse bit with science. So for those of you who are Ruby people, you might be familiar with GitHub's science library, which allows you to run 2 code paths, or actually more than 2. You can do more than 2, but typically it makes sense to do 2, where one is the code path that's in production, that's live, and the other is a code path that you're trying out for new, and it's called the candidate, right? And so then you measure the difference between these 2 paths, and you can measure the performance difference. You can measure the results, make sure they return the same thing. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing over the next week or so, is I'm going to put science out there. And for the customers who are still using the Elasticsearch backend, who don't have the feature flag, I will run an experiment, a science experiment, that will compare how much faster, hopefully, the Clickhouse results are, and try to ensure that the Clickhouse results are also exactly the same as the ones that we're getting back from Elasticsearch today.
That's awesome. I remember that coming out now. Like when you said science, I was thinking, you're just going to use the scientific method and develop some experiments and do some like random controlled studies or something. But I do remember that. I remember that coming out now, and I always wanted to have a way to use that. So I'm looking forward to seeing the results of our science experiments.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes to it. One of the things that's always been, like, I've always wanted to use science, and I've never really had a good reason to use it. One reason for that is because we just ship it here at Honeybadger, right? So it's going to be great. But in this case, I guess I want to be a little more cautious. But one of the whole things that held me back from using science in the past was that it works great, but seeing the results is difficult because science doesn't have a built-in way of actually reporting the results of the experiments. They give you some code examples of how to do it, but you gotta assemble yourself, right? It's the IKEA bookshelf. And so that's just kind of a hassle. It's like you can't just add water and it does it. But there's another gem that we'll link in the show notes called LabTech, which actually does, like, it's an engine for Rails that records the results in an active record table. So it has a table or 2 that it generates for you. And then it gives you nice little actually terminal UI for seeing the results of your experiment, which is really cool. But as I was Googling for this, I don't know, it feels like the umpteenth time, where every time before I've tried to find this thing, it didn't exist. And now it exists and I'm excited. But as I was Googling, I was like, you know what, this could be a service, right? This could be a new app, a new product, right? I was like, had to hold myself back there, as always.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is me holding Ben back.
Entrepreneurial ADD.
Don't do it.
So if anybody wants a project idea, there you go. There's a service that can take results from scientists. And there's also, it's not just Ruby. There are a bunch of variations out there. If you go to scientist, you scroll down to the bottom of the README, you'll see there's a PHP, there's a Python, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so there's my idea. Build a service that takes payloads from science experiments and then gives a nice visual UI so you can see the results. That actually would be a good fit for us, right? Because we're pretty good at handling a bunch of incoming payloads, right? That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's kind of in our wheelhouse, but yeah.
You never know. Yeah. Or we could talk John at Flipper into building it, because that's a similar, he runs the whatever cloud service for Flipper.
Yeah. And he's way into that sort of thing too, the scientist and metrics and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of his alley too.
I don't know. Maybe we'll have to flip a coin for it or something. Maybe we'll have him on.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, I think that's for me. I'm working on landing pages, and we'll see if I get to our homepage redesign. But I'm definitely going to be working on continuing the work that you started on the landing page for Insights, and
cool.
We'll have a featured tour, and that will be part of our launch, hopefully. So, be good to have it on the website at some point.
Yeah. The other day I was commenting on there's a Rails issue for Rails 8. They want to add some structured logging as part of Rails 8 release. And someone made a comment and I had to respond because I just had opinions, right? And I so badly wanted to link to our Insights landing page that is currently only on a branch, right? It's not on our website. I was like, this would be awesome. But, someday I'll be able to share that.
You can go back and edit your comment when it's live or something for future people who land there.
But I suppose people who are commenting on that thread would appreciate not having an advertisement link to Insights. So it's probably better that way.
Yeah. You got to work it in. You got to be subtle about it. Yeah. Got to be like a ninja working those links into your comments.
But on the topic of the Insights landing page, I think we should put a little pin in the conversation and come back to it maybe in a few weeks or maybe a few months as we figure out how we're going to display pricing for Insights. Because right now, our pricing page does not include Insights at all. And do we want to make that more complicated, or do we want to have a separate pricing page for Insights? So I think that's going to be interesting to figure out over the next few weeks.
That's relevant. I was just starting on like the hero section or a hero section for the new landing page. And we have this like mock-up that we did last year with Nurture, our designers or our design team that we worked with. And one of the things it has in there is a pricing button. So I was also thinking about that, like what's this button going to do? Because I have no idea, but I'm going to build it anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be good to talk about.
Yeah, I'm curious
Cool.
to see what you do with that.
I think it's time to wrap it up, unless you have anything else you want to chat about.
I got nothing.
All right. This has been FounderQuest. Visit us at founderquestpodcast.com. Go check out and follow us on the socials and whatnot. Give us some happy reviews at the podcasting apps, or at least give us a rating. It would help us get in front of more people and bring our message of helping developers and helping developers' customers to the world. And we'll see you next week.
FounderQuest is a weekly podcast by the founders of Honeybadger. Zero instrumentation, 360-degree coverage of errors, outages, and service degradations for your web apps. If you have a web app, you need it. Available at honeybadger.io. Want more from the founders? Go to founderquestpodcast.com. That's one word, where you can access our huge back catalog of episodes. FounderQuest is available on iTunes, Spotify, and other purveyors of fine podcasts. We'll see you next week.